So Mama Money was founded in 2013 by myself and my co-founder Justin Raphael. We met in 2011 on a beach in Mozambique, and we decided to travel around together. Raphael had a yellow bus, and he was living in Rwanda at the time. And he offered me a ride on the bus, and I jumped in, and we spent a month and a half traversing from Mozambique all the way to his house in Kigali. And along the way, we were discussing a lot of ideas for businesses. A lot of them were quite funny ideas. And then, I suppose a year later, we met up in Rome, in Italy, and over a pasta, Raf said, "Why don't we start a money transfer operator?" Which is something that I'd never thought of before, and thought it was a crazy idea. And none of us have a background in finance, and started to research the topic and find out a little bit more about money transfer globally and in Africa and in South Africa. And the more we kind of discovered about it, the more we realized there was an opportunity to actually disrupt the market and a need for an innovative service. So my skills were, I'd been working in other kind of startups and a little bit in the corporate space, mainly with a focus on sales, marketing, people, management. That was my background, and I was kind of disillusioned with that after doing it for several years, and actually decided to go on a sabbatical. And that's when I met Raf. So I was kind of on the road, and everyone said, "You got a great job. Why are you quitting your job? Why are you going traveling?" And I was like, "Well, this is what I want to do." And then along the way, you never know who you're going to meet. Raf's background was, he's an aid worker by heart, so he was working for the United Nations World Food Program. And so, being based in Rwanda, East Africa, working in food insecure camps, he saw firsthand that, when people would get money from a relative in a neighboring country or from, further afield, that extra $1 or $2 that they would get, immediately they would buy better food. So he then looked at remittances and said, well, if we can lower the costs and more money arrives home into the pockets of the people that can then use it, the first thing they'll do is they'll get access to better nutrition, and then we go from there. So that was kind of like, yes, the driving force and the background of seeing seeing what happens out there. Yeah, so it's quite interesting because a lot of South Africans, especially privileged South Africans, or when they leave South Africa, they'll go to Europe or they'll go to another first world country, and they'll miss that that opportunity that's kind of like our neighboring opportunities and on the continent. And so what people said when the idea was we were going backpacking and we were going to hitchhike from Cape Town to Egypt. And so it was just to use public transport, and what we found was that we were obviously nervous about the trip, but what we found is that exactly the opposites of what we expected happened. We met super friendly people, very happy to help us, to hang out with us, to chat with us, and just really nice, warm, kind. Wherever we went, we were welcomed, and we just had such a wonderful experience that it really just kind of opened our eyes up to what this continent is all about, and obviously all the opportunities and what people need to make their lives better. We find that African people are very industrious. There are things like one of the greatest creations to come out of the continent is mobile money, which has now been replicated in markets around the world and across, and it's a major success story. And this is a technology that's homegrown in Africa and that's been so successful. And what we saw was that when we wanted to start this business, we thought, well, instead of reinventing the wheel, why not piggyback on the back of mobile money? So if you can make a phone call from one country to another, or send an SMS or WhatsApp message, why does money transfer have to be so difficult, so expensive, so slow and ineffective? And the idea was that we actually would connect to mobile money operators in the receiving countries, and we'd be able to then send money very quickly, very easily to anyone that had a phone, and everyone has a phone, and that would also solve a lot of the last mile challenge, which is someone that's not in a big city that can't get to a bank branch or Western Union, but is in a rural area and has a phone, we can actually send them money to their phone, solve that problem. They can get access to the money straight away. They can buy food, medicine, and also a lot of the time the money is used for micro enterprise. Whether it be farming, agriculture, having a small business, selling goods, that kind of thing. So it keeps the wheels turning. Absolutely. I mean, mobile money has done amazing things, to allow people access to, financial inclusion, so that they can, take control of their own finances. And for a lot of African people, it's the first proper formal financial, tool or instrument that they've had access to. And off the back of that, you can now do things like obviously do savings and further insurance products and services. International money transfer arrives via mobile money. So it has been a game changer. It's still kind of a new invention, even though it started in Kenya in 2007, but it is spreading quite quickly across the continent. First is you need to register as a mobile money customer. That is done via two ways. One is you can self-register, so you can download the app and you do a self-FICA, where you take a photograph of your ID and yourself and you upload your documentation, and then we approve you and we activate your account. The other way is through our agent network. We currently have 2,500 agents across South Africa. They come from the sending community, so there'll be Zimbabwean, Malawian, Ghanaian, Pakistani, Indian, and what they do is they then go out to their communities and they will then obviously market, educate, and then onboard those customers through a registration process. So they have their own app in order to onboard a customer. Once your account is active and you're a customer and you want to send money to Malawi, you go onto the phone. You can either access the phone via the app, or we have a USSD menu. So if you don't have a smartphone, you've just got a simple basic phone, you can still use the service, and it is reverse billed, so which means that if you have no airtime, you can still access the system and create an order. You add a recipient, so who you want to send money to, what their name is, what their number is, and you add it onto the system. Then you create an order. So you want to send 1,000 Rand to Malawi, you say I want to send 1,000 Rand, it'll then convert it into Malawian kwacha. Numbers fee is 5% for that specific corridor, and it'll tell you exactly how much kwacha your recipient will receive. Payment is very easy. We've integrated into the retail network in South Africa. So I think we have 150,000 pay-in points. So once you've created your order, you get a reference number. You go to ShopRite, you go to Spar, you go to Pick n Pay, also informal retailers like Flash and Kazang, and you pay. So money payment with your reference number. As soon as that payment is made, we receive a message saying we've received the payment, and we then release the amount to the recipient in Malawi. And if it's to their mobile wallet account, they'll receive an SMS straight away saying you've received money and this is the amount, and it gets credited onto their wallet. Once it's on their mobile wallet, they can transact with it there, so they can buy airtime, electricity, pay bills, pay school fees, or they can go to their local agent and they can cash out that money, all of it, some of it, depending on how they want to interact with that money. And that's the transaction kind of end to end. So I think that the secret sauce for us is that we started with, okay, we want to get into business, we want to be entrepreneurs. We don't just want to get into business that's going to have another internet business that's going to make money by selling shoes on the internet. We want to actually start a business that has a social impact. And we realize that if we get involved in remittances and we make it more efficient, more cost effective, it has an immediate impact on poverty, because more money will arrive home and there's more money for food, medicine, and all the other basic amenities. And so we had a very strong purpose and a why, and it was always about how do we make our customers' lives easier. From there, I think the rest of it is just figuring it all out. Like, how do you do it? There's regulations. You need to get a license. Then how do you get customers and the technology side of it? But all of those things, they're there. It's like connecting dots. But once you have a purpose of what you want to do, then connecting those dots, is just part of the discovery process of what you want to do. Yeah, so we bootstrapped and for the first 3 years, we lived together, we shared a car, we started with a laptop each, and we were obviously fortunate enough to be in the position where we could bootstrap, but it was definitely a different journey that we took, where you could obviously raise money and start with a bunch of capital. So we worked off a shoestring budget and really had to sweat out every single cent that we had. And I think in a way that was really good for us, because we had to really learn how to the best way to spend the little resources we had. And then as a business, as we've grown and become successful, I think that kind of ethos about how to spend well and not waste has stayed with us. So yeah, it was a bootstrap, and we were at the right time at the right place. We obviously grew by 500% in revenue last year, but that was off the back of 300% the year before. So the trajectory of growth was there. There was a foundation and a base, and we built the business to scale, and continues to do so. I think what COVID did was it did a few things. One is that our biggest competition in the South African market is the informal money transfer market. So that's people physically taking money across the border with bus drivers, taxi drivers, and other sorts of informal money transfer. And when the borders were closed, obviously that paralyzed the informal sector, and it forced customers who were migrating from informal to formal prior to that, but that rate of adoption just increased incrementally because of the situation. And then what we saw was that obviously the COVID situation in the countries that we send money to, they were facing lockdowns, they were facing restrictions, they were finding it very difficult to make money and to survive. And so their family that are in South Africa even more had to dig even deeper in order to obviously make sure that they were supporting their families back home. So it was a combination of all of that. And then obviously we saw a massive spike in our digital registration channel, so self-registration, because of the constraints of COVID. And I think you put all of that together, and that's why we had such an amazing year. We were able to grow and add exponentially to the size of our team because our foundation was very solid. So we had a very strong culture. I go back to the part where we were bootstrapping the company. Myself and Raphael were involved in the day-to-day. We weren't running off trying to raise money or going to conferences or getting caught up in a lot of the things that founders can get caught up in that's time-consuming. We plowed all our time and energy into the team culture, why we do what we do, really understanding the business, and then bringing people in who then, obviously, off that foundation, bringing in, obviously, like-minded people, who were attracted to the purpose of the business and why we do it. And in today's age, people more and more want to work for companies that are not just paying them a salary, but when they go home at night, they feel like, wow, I've actually made the world a better place in a small way. And that's motivational for a lot of people. So off that, we were able to add, I think we're up to almost 200 staff members, but two and a half years ago we were 30 people. And so I think the only way we were able to do that is through a solid foundation, but then also we put a lot of effort and energy into people, the recruitment process, the onboarding process, the interactions you have with the team members. We always constantly working on it. You cannot take your culture for granted, but I think that's really the secret sauce again in terms of being able to grow the team, is the solid foundation and the culture. I think that we looked at the gaps. So if we look at ourselves, where are we strong, where are we weak, and you really need to be humble and say, okay, cool, I've got certain skills I can do this, but we're really missing skills here, and then finding people that can fill those gaps, and I suppose just making sure that people really that we hire people that are connected to what we do. So we're quite fortunate that a large amount of our team are foreign nationals. So for them, it's like a real sense of pride to come and work here because they're in a foreign country. They want to make sure that they're still participating in the success of their country and obviously helping out here. So for them to be able to have a job with a purpose where they're actually helping their fellow countrymen and women is massively motivational. And then when you bring in people who are not foreign nationals, and there's obviously a blend in our team, those people can feed off from that. They can learn from that. They're not sitting in an office where they don't, have access to that information. When people, as an example, when people start working for us, they, as part of the onboarding process, they would actually go out into the field for a day with our team of agents and actually go out and actually interact with customers. Ask customers like, where are you sending money? Why are you sending money? Who receives the money? What is the money for? And then they're able to then come back into the office and go, wow, okay, this is the real purpose of what we're doing. Now, how can I make the jobs of our agents and our customers easier? So when we were deciding the name of our company, we wanted to come up with a name that really kind of represented what was happening in Africa. And what we saw was when we interviewed people is that people were sending money to their mom 9 out of 10 times. And we were like, okay, that's interesting. And the mama is the backbone of the African economy. She's the one that's getting in the money and paying the school fees, making sure the food is bought, like running the household. And so really to honor that, we decided to call the company Mama Money. So that was the genesis of the name. And and also a lot of financial institutions wouldn't do that. They wouldn't put on their on their brand an image of a mama with a head wrap and be like, this is what we stand for, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually bring our brand to you. We're not going to say you need to come to us. We're going to come to you where you are. So obviously the younger generation migrate to South Africa. They send money home to their moms, and by making a service that is efficient, that is low cost, we're allowing those mamas to have extra bit of money in their pocket, and that extra bit of money they can then make smart decisions around how they're going to spend. Is it on nutrition? Is it on school fees? Is it on medicine? Is it another emergency like a funeral? So it just gives them more options to be able to make better decisions and take better care of their families. The elderly generation are a huge receiver of remittances. Like I said, often the younger generations, they migrate. And, it's very difficult for them to, for example, have to travel into a city, take a bus for 2 or 3 hours to go and receive their monthly remittances, stand in a long queue. We still have these challenges to overcome, but we are thinking of ways and using mobile money as a way to circumvent some of these challenges and making their lives that little bit easier so they don't have to struggle and suffer so much. Yeah. So the system is very safe because we don't keep people's money as a deposit. So you create an order on your phone, and then you would go and pay for it at a retailer or by a bank transfer. As soon as that money is received, the money is then paid off to the recipient. But obviously we have security measures, pins on the phone, and all sorts of things. On the sort of compliance side, it's a very regulated industry that we work in for a very good reason. We do not want to have nefarious people sending money for the wrong reasons. We want to really help people who are sending remittances, and we have to be alert to that. So we have compliance systems that flag suspicious transactions and anything of the like, and we regularly report that to the Reserve Bank. On a daily basis, all the transactions are reported, and we make sure that our limits are quite low in terms of the amount of money that someone can remit, and that does obviously influence the risk of certain transactions. But it's a risk-based approach where we look at where the money is going, how much is being sent, how often it's being sent, and we have systems that automatically look at all of those things. The growth continues. The core product is money transfer. We have markets that we still believe that there's a lot of opportunity to grow in. Some markets are still very informal today, and so there's still a massive opportunity to convert and help those people. We've had huge success in Mozambique recently, where informally customers were paying 20% to send money home, which take a couple of weeks to get there, and now they pay 5% and it arrives within a matter of minutes. So there's still a lot to do there. However, we have got further growth plans. One is we want to obviously add further financial service products and services to what we do. So our customers ask us about banking all the time. They really struggle to open a bank account. They need a bank account that's bespoke for their specific needs as a migrant worker, and that we're working on. Then there's obviously insurance off the back of that. Something that's very big in the African context is funeral insurance. If something happens to me, does a body get repatriated home? And that's quite an obvious one for us to look at. And I think there's some other things that are maybe not as obvious, but definitely becoming a one-stop shop for migrant needs around money transfer, banking, insurance. There's a whole suite of things that we believe that we can do. And there's a real hunger for our customers to use technology, to use their phones, and to have access to these services. Then geographies, yes, we are looking at other geographies. In terms of, at the moment, we send money from South Africa to 50 countries in Africa, Asia, and Europe. But there are also opportunities elsewhere in the world where our customers might not be sitting in South Africa, but they'll be sitting somewhere else, but they still have the same need in terms of money transfer and other products and services. So that's another thing that we're looking at as part of our expansion. What we're working on is a banking solution that is where customers will be able to get a light bank account where they'll be able to get paid their salary into it. So obviously that would mean that we could potentially go to a big employer like a farm that employs a lot of people and say, here's a payroll solution for your 500,000 workers. So that's definitely something that we would look at, because at the moment there's a pain point there about paying people with cash and all the issues and hassles that come with that. And then being able to have a banking solution where you can do your remittances home, you can send money peer-to-peer in South Africa, you can buy airtime, electricity, pay your DSTV, all of those things. Those are all things that our customers need. So that's kind of around the banking solution that we're currently looking at. At the moment, because we don't store the money in a wallet, you pay for your transaction and it gets processed immediately. So if you lose your phone, you would then contact our contact center and say you've lost your phone. They'll reenact your accounts, SMS you a new unique PIN code, which will allow you to access the phone, and then off you go with your security from there. Only if you have access to the PIN code, yeah, you could do something with it. But it's not like, because there's no money that's sitting on the phone. Okay. So if someone did access it, there is no money there, because as soon as because you create an order, so you have a live order, you then go and make the payment. And then as soon as you make the payment, that order gets processed. So there's no opportunity to kind of to steal that money. It's not sitting in a wallet. What was interesting is that we, when we started doing money transfers, we would then ask our customers, okay, like, what else do you need? And then funeral insurance came up a lot. So what I did was I actually went to a few to see customers, and what they do on the weekends is that they have these informal burial societies. So there might be a Malawian community in Hout Bay that make up a burial society for that part of the community. And what happens is that if someone passes away or someone's family member passes away and they're part of that informal burial society, is that everyone then has to chip money in to repatriate that body back to Malawi. It's extremely expensive. From Cape Town to Malawi is probably around 25 to 30,000 rand repatriation costs, with a little bit of money for a dignified funeral. And you can imagine that being an informal arrangement, it's not very reliable. People have their own struggles, and there's no guarantees. And so there's really a need for creating a formalized a funeral insurance around repatriation, where customers pay a small amount of money. There's a big base of customers, and if anything should happen, they can rest assured that themselves or their family members can be repatriated and can have, like I said, a dignified funeral. And there's a lot of anxiety and stress that comes with that, and we can alleviate some of that, and obviously make it low cost, so that people can opt in quite easily.
Yeah.
What we've discovered is important is that you need to really focus on your customers. Focus on, when we launch with one corridor, one payout, very much a minimal viable product solution, one pay-in option, one payout option, instead of looking at lots of markets. We then began trading and learning a lot from that, that first year and a half of just doing one thing and trying to get really, really good at that one thing. And then from there, once we learned a lot, we started adding other corridors, other payouts, and that's when we were able to grow exponentially. But it was because we had a singular focus in the beginning, and then we're able to kind of widen that and broaden that and grow from there. And I think what happens is a lot of times as an entrepreneur, as a startup, all you see is opportunities. There's balls in the air. There's so many things that you can do. There's people that are obviously calling you, wanting you to talk, and it can be very distracting, and it's very difficult to block out a lot of that stuff. But you really need to obviously focus on that in the beginning and make sure that you're putting, because it's really, really hard to get traction, to grow a company, and so you just need to focus on doing one thing really well, looking after your customer, solving a solution that will make a difference in their lives. I mean, if you think about, someone that's sending money informally, in our case, that's paying 20%, that's taking 2 or 3 weeks to get there, and they have this immediate need, what we do is not 10 times the improvement on the experience that they have, it's 100 times. And if you're multiplying the experience that someone has by 100, you have something very powerful. And that will obviously allow you to make a difference and to get traction. We found it as a social business. So the goal was that we didn't want to be a non-profit, but we didn't want to be a normal commercial company that was just driven by making as much money as possible. We felt quite strongly about that. So we wanted to have a sustainable business that profit minimized, but was still able to grow and be sustainable. And that was a very difficult journey because we work in the financial services, so we deal with banks and other financial companies who don't think that way. So a lot of it was going against the grain. But if you stick to your guns, you can bring people along for that journey. And still to this day, we don't have any financial targets in the business. So we have targets, things that we want to achieve that are very ambitious: number of customers, number of unique users, etc., etc. And that has driven great financial results. But because that is the byproduct of what we're trying to do, rather than how do we get great financial results as being the first question. And as part of our management bonus scheme, we have a social impact target for everyone. So you have your normal targets that you need to achieve as a manager, but then there's a social impact target, which is you can do anything. You can go and start a soup kitchen. You can go teach underprivileged kids. You can choose whatever it is that you want to do, but for that period you have to have a social impact. And I think that helps to continue driving that kind of social impact culture. It then just attracts more people who are like-minded that want to come and join us, and then that kind of winning formula just perpetuates itself. Yeah, because then the results will be there as a byproduct, like I said, instead of it being like this is why we exist. And people are motivated. I mean, we find that people are motivated less by, yes, money is important, but the kind of people that come and work for My Money are not solely motivated by money. They're motivated more by what their work can do and how their work can have an impact in the world. And at the same time, they obviously want to have a good life and be paid well and be able to grow. But they don't knock on the door and say, how much can you pay me? It's like, what impact can I have if I work here? So I think there's a lot of pride in being able to build a team of so many people and bringing such a diverse team together. I think that's something that we're really proud of. To have such a blend of people working together, collaborating, doing great work, is really like, we always say that we wanted our company to be a reflection of the society that we want to live in. And so that's something to be really proud of. Then, our agent network of 2,500 agents, a lot of them, come from really difficult circumstances, not making a lot of money, really struggling to make ends meet. And there's so many stories that I could tell about so many people who are now, have become successful entrepreneurs, being able to, set themselves up, look after their family, educate their families. And there's many of those stories. And obviously, every time you hear just one person who you've helped to uplift, it makes worthwhile to get up the next day and continue doing it. And then every time you go out into the field and you meet a customer who says to you, "No, I used to really struggle to send money home. It was so difficult. It was so expensive. You have no idea how much of a difference you've made to myself and my family. Thank you so much." And it's really heartfelt and sincere and warm. And you get a lot of those, and that also just kind of absolutely makes your day and makes it all worthwhile.
The pictures in the back, any reflection to real imaginary people?
These are the three CEOs. Yeah, these are the guys that run the business and make sure that we all stay in line. I think they're just random pictures that Raph selected, and we didn't know what to do with them. So we thought, because we're kind of very much anti-corporate and anti the boardroom, as you can imagine. So we thought, well, this is kind of as close as we're going to get to a boardroom, and this is as close to as like those old school boardroom pictures as you're going to get. So it's kind of
Awesome.
The C word, the corporate word, is a swear word. Yeah.